Hi everyone. Could this be Trump's next move to push the stock market higher? There is another big headline, so let's talk about it today. Recently, the market is being weak, and almost right away, we got some great news. It was seems like meant to support the stock market. Of course, this may just my personal idea or my personal read. Maybe I'm just being too hopeful, but this story is still very interesting. I have been talking about this theme for a while. Trump said he has spoken with major AI leaders, including OpenAI, Anthropic, and SpaceX. According to the media reports, the administration has been looking at possible government investment in these companies for about a year. So today we're gonna check what does that mean and where can we find the investment idea for the next. Before we start, I post breaking market news every morning on my YouTube Shorts. I strongly believe this will help your investment decisions, so please check that out and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of them. Okay, then let's get started. The key point here is a public fund. The idea is to create a fund that lets the American people benefit from the success of AI. In simple words, the government could take ownership, take stakes in the AI companies, and then share the gains with the public. That is the biggest point in this news. The plan is to invest in AI companies, make money from those stakes, and return part of that gain to the people almost like a dividend. So we need to take a closer look at what is really happening here. To me, this looks like another move by the Trump administration to strongly support the AI industry. Trump seems very sensitive to the idea of stock market crash or deeper sell-off. Whenever the market starts to look weak, he seems to bring out new positive news to lift the mood again. This idea actually came from OpenAI first. Back in April, OpenAI submitted a policy proposal to the White House. It is a public document and it is very long. But the main idea is simple. The title of the proposal is Intelligence Age. In that paper, OpenAI uses the phrase people first. In other words, it presents the plan as a policy that puts ordinary people first. OpenAI suggests creating a public wealth fund so that every American can share in the gains from the AI growth. The structure would look like this. OpenAI, Sam Altman, and possibly another major AI companies could donate or provide part of their ownership stakes to the government. The government would then use those stakes to take part in the growth of these AI companies. From the government side, once it receives these stakes, it has a clear reason to support the industry. It could reduce rules, help with problems around the IPOs, and lower political risk or public criticism against AI. Then, if those investments makes money, part of the return could be sent back to American people. From the public's view, people may start to think AI growth is not only helping big tech, it is also helping us. OpenAI and Anthropic may no longer look like companies that only take away jobs. They could look like companies that also send money back to the people. That is the positive cycle OpenAI is trying to build. And now this idea seems to be getting closer to real policy. But OpenAI's proposal also includes some very serious points. It talks about the risk that AI could lead to mass layoffs, weaker labor income, and social tension. Because of that, OpenAI argues that lending AI firms should work with the government and share part of the benefits from AI growth with the public. OpenAI has talked about ideas close to basic income for a long time. So this proposal feels like a policy version of that same thinking. That is why the Trump administration keeps saying that it wants to return the gains to the people. This idea did not come out of nowhere. There is a clear policy background behind it. Trump also brought up Intel again. He basically said, look at Intel. That is how we can do it. He is once again pointing to the idea the government can invest in a key company and then benefit from the upside. Trump's message is simple. Major AI companies will come to the White House. They will discuss possible government stakes. If the government invests well, the gains can be returned to the American people. He wants to make Americans partner with the AI revolution and let them benefit from AI success. In the end, this is also a way to make people feel more positive about AI. Right now in America, there is growing pushback against AI build out. People are worried about data centers using too much power, higher electricity bills, noise, water use, and job losses. If the government can send some direct benefit back to the people, it could calm down some of the negative feelings. AI companies benefit from this too. They could lower regulatory risk and political risk. They could also build a much closer working relationship with the government. In a way, it is a both donation of ownership stakes and political safety net. The government also benefits. It can prepare for possible mass unemployment, weaker wages, and lower tax revenue caused by AI. In fact, pressure on AI companies is already growing in Congress. Some lawmakers are even saying the government should take large stakes in companies like OpenAI. That shows how serious the concern in the United States about the social shock AI could bring. So, this public fund idea is not just a simple investment plan, it is a mixed policy plan where AI firms, the government, and the public all have something to gain. Then the next question is, where would this fund invest? OpenAI's proposal says every citizen should have a share in AI growth, including people who do not invest in the stock market. For example, some people do not own stocks at all. When stocks rise sharply, people without stocks can feel left behind. OpenAI is trying to prevent that same problem in the AI era. In other words, the goal is to build a fund that gives every person a chance to take part in AI growth. This fund could invest not only in AI companies, but also in firms that use AI in their business. So it would not be just about owning OpenAI shares. It could become a national fund that invests across the whole AI economy. We still need to wait for more details on how the money will be raised and how the fund will work. But the big direction is clear. The idea is to return some of the gains from AI growth to the public and in return, build political support for the AI industry. OpenAI also emphasizes power investment. As AI data centers grow, power demand will rise fast. That could push electricity bills higher and hurt household budget. OpenAI suggested that the public fund could also invest in the power grid to reduce that burden. This part seems to be aimed directly at one of the biggest concerns inside the White House. The government wants to support AI investment, but if data centers use too much electricity, local pushback could get worse. If power bills rise, inflation concerns could return. So OpenAI is basically saying, let's also invest in the power grid. Then where could the market benefit? Of course, private AI names like OpenAI, Anthropic, and SpaceX could get direct attention. If these companies go public, government investment or policy support could be a huge positive factor. Big tech could also benefit because these companies are already the biggest users and builders of AI. But the biggest winner may still be the AI build out names. Chips, powers, data centers, servers, fiber optics, and memory could continue to get attention. From the Trump administration's view, supporting the AI build out can help the stock market and also support the goal of bringing back American manufacturing. That is why I think the Trump administration is likely to keep backing the AI build out. But there is one question here. OpenAI and Anthropic are clearly AI companies, but what about SpaceX? Isn't SpaceX is a space company? Yes, it is. SpaceX has always been known as a space company, but this week SpaceX showed a very interesting change. SpaceX is starting to position itself almost like an AI company too. Wall Street is also beginning to view SpaceX not only as a space company, but also as an AI build-out company. Why this is happening? Right now, the hottest theme in the market is AI infrastructure. If we were in the strong rate cut cycle with a lot of liquidity, the space theme alone might be enough to get a high market value. But today, investors are still worried about inflation, interest rate, and tight money. In this kind of market, being seen as an AI build-out company can help a firm get a much higher value. The banks lead the SpaceX IPO are major Wall Street names like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan. They need the SpaceX IPO to be massive success. So it makes sense that Wall Street is starting to describe SpaceX as more than rocket company. Some of Wall Street are now saying the SpaceX's real growth engine may not be rockets but AI computing. Recently, SpaceX also announced a major deal with Google. The timing is very interesting. Right before the IPO, SpaceX seems to be sending a clear message. We are not just a space company burning cash. We can make steady money by renting AI computing power. The Google deal is reported to be around $1 billion per month. That is a huge amount of money. Google would be paying SpaceX's massive monthly fee. Some reports say this one deal alone could be close to SpaceX's annual Starlink revenue. That means AI computing and data center rental could become a new key growth engine for SpaceX. So when Trump was asked on the Air Force One whether SpaceX would also take part, he gave an answer that sounded like SpaceX would be included. In other words, SpaceX is now being placed inside the AI group. SpaceX has also reportedly made a deal to provide AI computing to Anthropic. If you combine the Google deal and the Anthropic deal together, the size could be larger than SpaceX's existing revenue base. At that point, it becomes easier to understand why SpaceX won't be seen as an AI build-out company. To sum it up, Trump's AI push could become another reason for the market to feel more hopeful. Of course, many investors are worried about the market because the market has been weak recently, but it is important to notice that Trump administration keeps sending signals that it does not want to deeper stock market drop. There is one more important point. The share of stocks in American household asset has reached a record high. Stocks now make up about 33% of total household assets in the United States. During the dot-com bubble, the peak was around 27%. After COVID, during the zero rate period, it was around 30%, but now it is even higher than that. This means that no matter who is president, American politics cannot ignore the stock market anymore. American households have heavy exposure to stocks, so if the market falls sharply, it can directly affect public mood and approval ratings. This becomes even more important before a midterm election. Whether this is good or bad is a separate debate, but in real life, politicians cannot easily ignore the stock market anymore. A lot of market leaders have pulled back recently, and I know many investors are tired or worried. But my personal view is that we do not need to panic too much. In the short term, June could still be choppy. The market may move sideways and volatility may stay high. But if we can get through this period, I think the market could take a breath and recover again. That is why I'm also thinking about buying more. If picking single stocks feels too difficult, ETFs may be easier choice. The power grid point is especially important because OpenAI directly mentioned it. AI computing matters, but without enough electricity, data centers cannot run. That is why power will likely stay one of the key parts of this AI cycle. AI build out the power grid, chips, data centers, servers, fiber optics, and memory are still area worth watching. Short-term volatility is always possible, but if policy keeps moving in the direction of support AI build out, then market pullbacks could become a chance, not just risk. Thank you for watching.